$60 million worth of illegal drugs are off our streets thanks to a joint operation between federal, New South Wales and...
Picture this: a judge bound by the oath to uphold justice secretly orchestrating the flow of nearly 1 ton of heroin and fentanyl into America. 20 pounds of heroin stashed behind the walls of his private estate, $41.7 million funneled through 47 shell companies and encrypted messages exchanged with the Venezuelan cartel boss. This isn't a thriller. This is the shocking truth laid bare in Operation Crosscut, a massive multi-state operation spanning 7 states, resulting in the seizure of 1,809 tons of drugs, $144 million, and the exposure of 184 officials who sold their souls. Can you handle the reality that the system might be rotting from within? Watch now to uncover the darkest secrets. We can no longer let this continue. It's time to free our communities from the scourge of addiction. 20 pounds of heroin found behind the walls of a suburban judge's home. This isn't a gang stash house. This is the collapse of integrity behind courtroom doors. This isn't corruption from the outside. It's rot from within, protected by those in robes. The Trump administration, in a memo sent to Congress yesterday, declared that America is now officially engaged in armed conflict with terrorist drug cartels. At 5:42 a.m., the streets of Cobb County, Georgia remained quiet, a quiet that hides a coming storm. Hallway lights flashed once, then boots hit the floor. The FBI and ICE task force moved through Judge Marcus Hale's home like shadows through glass. No shouts, no warnings, just precision. The weight of those who already knew what they would find. The steel door shatters under the battering ram's relentless fury, its echo roaring through the house like a midnight storm unleashed. Family photos hang crooked on the walls, frozen smiles mocking the chaos, a man beaming proudly beside the flag he once swore to protect, though the rot of betrayal has long festered behind that false facade. Behind the fake paneling, agents uncover 20 pounds of heroin, neatly stamped and stacked like ordinary warehouse goods inside a secure safe. $2.4 million in bundled cash sealed in airtight wraps. The basement arsenal overflows with tactical rifles and handguns gleaming in the dim light like silent threats. But the true treason isn't the drugs or the weaponry. It's written in the unlocked phone of Judge Hale, where investigators find encrypted messages to Tendagua, the Venezuelan cartel enforcer, whose mere name sends chills through even his own ranks. Their exchanges outline shipment timelines with chilling precision schemes to delay law enforcement investigations and courtroom verdicts designed to carve paths of safety for the poison to flow unchecked. This isn't mere corruption, it's the judiciary's heart-turned-executioner, a betrayal that poisons justice from its very core. This is loyalty to the cartel over loyalty to one's own country. If you understand that corruption doesn't begin on the streets, but from within the very system meant to protect us. As agents dig deeper, the thin veil of respectability begins to unravel. Judge Marcus Hale wasn't coerced by the cartel, he was an active part of it. He didn't just open the doors to the cartel, he built them. Financial analysts traced $41.7 million over 6 years, money laundered through 47 shell companies in Delaware, Panama, and Curacao. These companies had no employees, no products, no operations. They existed for one reason only: to funnel cartel profits through the legitimate American financial system, hiding them in plain sight. Money flows in a cold, calculated loop dispatched from Venezuelan fronts, disguised as consulting fees and funneled into Georgia companies handpicked by Judge Hale. On the surface, it looks like a judge making smart business investments. But beneath the surface, in the case files, it's a blood money conveyor belt. One message left investigators in stunned disbelief: run 38 quarterly shipments. Same route, no roadside interference. Each shipment estimated at 50 to 120 pounds of drugs. Nearly 1 ton of heroin and fentanyl moved through the Southeast in just 3 months, all authorized by the very judge sworn to uphold the law. But it didn't end there. Agents uncovered an encrypted calendar filled with lunches, golf outings, and review sessions with 12 county officials and 3 senior law enforcement officers. payments for silence delays, and clear corridors. The truth is no longer a theory, it's a brutal reality. This judge didn't just fail to protect justice, he engineered a pipeline poisoning American neighborhoods. Now the moment has come to witness the government's counterstrike. As Judge Hale's role becomes indisputable, federal agencies shift from investigation to interdiction. What started with a single home raid has escalated into Operation Crosscut, a coordinated federal assault meticulously planned to sever the cartel's arteries running through America's heartland. The goal to choke off the lifeblood of corruption before it can spread and metastasize further. At dawn on Thursday, search warrants were executed simultaneously across 7 states: Georgia, Florida, Texas, New Jersey, New York, Illinois, and Alabama. No warnings issued. In Savannah, unmarked SUVs glided silently along rows of weathered warehouses lining the riverbank. The structures appeared long abandoned, but inside agents uncovered vacuum sealing machines, chemical residues, and shipping logs tying containers directly to Puerto Cabello, Venezuela. As tactical teams breached the corrugated steel doors, shouts echoed through the cavernous spaces. Suspects bolted toward the loading docks only to be trapped by drones hovering overhead, sealing off every escape route. Within minutes, the site was secured. In Houston, a low-profile industrial park served as a transshipment and repackaging hub. The light still burned when agents arrived, casting a cold glow on the next phase of the unraveling network. 2 armed bodyguards at the rear exit bolted across the gravel lot only to be intercepted by the K-9 unit, the dogs snarling and straining on their leashes. Inside, investigators unearthed barrels of precursor chemicals, sealed plastic drums, and scales caked with residue. The air was thick with a caustic, toxic stench. But the most intense confrontation unfolded in central New Jersey, where cartel-affiliated brokers operated out of a sprawling truck distribution center. As federal teams closed in, workers dropped their clipboards and scattered between towering trailers. Agents chased them through narrow steel corridors choked with diesel fumes, shouts, boot falls, and the harsh metallic slam of trailer doors echoing in controlled chaos. One suspect desperate to escape tried to hide inside a refrigerated unit, but thermal imaging pinpointed him within minutes, sealing his fate. Across all 7 sites, the seizures mounted with chilling clarity. 1,800 tons of narcotics, including fentanyl, heroin, and methamphetamine derivatives. 312 firearms recovered, many with serial numbers obliterated. Roughly $142 million in cash, gold, and bearer bonds carefully recorded in ledgers. The documents also revealed a network of corruption listing 21 city officials and law enforcement officers on the cartel payroll. But the most shocking discovery didn't come from drugs or weapons, it was found in paperwork. Inside a locked Newark office, agents uncovered a filing cabinet containing monthly payment schedules, meticulously organized sheets with transfers, drop instructions, and encrypted references to officials across multiple counties. Among the pages in clean block handwriting was a note that investigators later called pivotal evidence. Hale ensures clearance. No deviations. The public reaction was immediate and explosive. This wasn't street-level smuggling or anonymous dealers. These were administrators, officers, inspectors, and brokers, individuals embedded directly within the machinery of everyday civic life. Communities awoke to news helicopters hovering over industrial parks, flashing lights outside government buildings, and press conferences detailing systemic infiltration, not just isolated acts of misconduct. What Operation Crosscut exposed wasn't merely a drug pipeline, it was an access network, a system where influence and bureaucracy were weaponized to move narcotics across the country, hidden behind the veil of legality. The shock wasn't that the cartels had reached American soil, it was that they were invited in, and the fallout from Operation Crosscut didn't fade into silence. It reverberated through every corner of American governance, shaking the very foundations of trust between the people and the institutions meant to protect them. It exploded outward when the federal team processed evidence from the raids. The picture of internal rot began to sharpen. What at first appeared to be a lone judge acting alone now revealed a sprawling network of favors, traded silent handshakes and deals disguised as routine administrative approvals. Corruption doesn't lurk on the outskirts of local government. It weaves its way through its very fabric. Investigators uncovered bank ledgers, email chains, and encrypted note apps logging 5 years of exchanges between cartel intermediaries and city officials across multiple counties. Some records were almost brazen in their audacity. The Fulton County Deputy Police Chief, for example, received regular transfers labeled security consulting. If a judge like Marcus Hale can hide 20 pounds of heroin behind his walls, launder $41.7 million through 47 shell companies, and swap encrypted messages with the Venezuelan cartel boss while sitting on the bench, do you really believe corruption only happens at the lower levels? This wasn't just a breach of law, it was a betrayal of everything the system was meant to protect. The Jacksonville Planning Commissioner received wire deposits that perfectly matched riverfront warehouse lease approvals. The Chicago procurement officer filed unusual emergency paperwork for import inspection waivers timed with eerie precision to cartel shipment schedules. The numbers tell an undeniable story. $8.3 million in bribes and support payments traced over 5 years. 12 police officers now sworn in under internal investigation. 3 city contractors implicated as logistics intermediaries. Dozens of court filings flagged for unusual dismissals linked directly to cartel defendants. But the betrayal wasn't just in the money. It was in the very integrity of the system, the people sworn to protect it who had instead become the architects of its decay. The rot ran deeper than anyone had imagined, exposing the horrifying truth that the machinery of government had been hijacked and used to fuel the poison coursing through American streets. Officials tasked with upholding the law instead cleared the path for drugs to flow through neighborhoods, schools, and hospitals. They facilitated the violence and addiction that followed in their wake. Public reaction was swift and divided. Outside, the Atlanta courthouse citizens gathered holding signs that read, "If the law is criminal, what justice remains, and who do we trust?" Some were furious, demanding resignations and criminal prosecutions. Others stood in stunned silence, struggling to reconcile the polished image of public servants with the stark truth now emerging in federal testimony. Inside government buildings, the fallout was immediate and undeniable. 2 county sheriffs submitted forced resignations pending investigation. The Savannah City Council convened an emergency closed session that dragged on for nearly 9 hours, while whispers of corruption and betrayal echoed through the chambers. The New Jersey Police Union issued a statement distancing itself from the implicated officers, branding the scandal as a systemic betrayal of their oath. Yet beneath the surface, resistance simmered, silence, defensiveness, and palpable tension. Some officials accused federal agencies of overreach, while others questioned the timing of the raids and investigations. Press conferences became political theaters, microphones yanked away amid outbursts of fury, denial, and at times reluctant admissions. Meanwhile, FBI analysts continued to map connections each new line, uncovering a web of complicity far more expansive than originally imagined. At the center of this intricate network stands the architect himself, Judge Marcus Hale, now detained without bail, facing an avalanche of federal charges. His fall from power was swift, but the true scale of the betrayal continued to unfold, with each revelation casting a deeper shadow over the institutions meant to uphold justice. When led past reporters, Judge Hale didn't shout, deny, or protest. He simply looked down his silence, speaking louder than any words could. The realization settled over the nation with cold, undeniable weight. This wasn't the story of one lone, corrupt individual. This was the exposure of how deeply a cartel could infiltrate and root itself into the very institutions meant to stop it. By the weekend, federal situation rooms were no longer filled with speculation. They had become walls lined with hard evidence. What began with a single home raid had escalated into one of the most consequential drug corruption cases in recent state history. The numbers weren't just statistics, they were the grim reflection of a system hijacked from the inside, where the very people entrusted to protect the public had instead enabled the poison to spread unchecked. In total, investigators cataloged 1,809 tons of narcotics seized across all related sites, enough to flood the entire metro area for months. Alongside the drugs were $144.4 million in combined seized assets, cash recovered from duffel bags and safes bank accounts, frozen mid-transfer commodity holdings, halted by court order, and 120 gold bars stamped and locked into federal vaults. The weapons tally reached 324 from the raids, handguns, rifles, and tactical configurations, each tagged and photographed under the harsh fluorescent lights. But the most critical element wasn't the physical inventory, it was the names. Names in ledgers, internal emails, encrypted messages, phone contacts, city schedules. These were the keys that unlocked the full scope of the operation. Each case represents an intersection where legitimacy was compromised and loyalty was sold. Federal indictments from the U.S. Attorney's Office have now charged 184 individuals, not just the movers and handlers, but sworn law enforcement officers, municipal employees, and administrative officials who advised, facilitated, or shielded the network. Some were arrested within hours, quickly offering testimony in exchange for leniency, eager to save themselves from the inevitable consequences. Others invoked their right to silence, choosing not to speak, knowing the weight of their betrayal could not be easily erased. As the network crumbled, those left standing faced a stark choice: cooperate and reveal the full extent of the corruption, or be swept into the tide of justice that had already begun to claim the powerful and the corrupt alike. Some continued to deflect, using excuses of duplication, lack of understanding, or administrative errors to explain away their actions. Yet the records tell a different story. They are far too consistent, the patterns far too clear. Ambition does not hide in the shadows. It is printed on paper, duplicated, time-stamped, and rooted with cold efficiency. Communities across multiple states, shaken and scarred, react with a mixture of skepticism and recognition. In certain neighborhoods, the news has only confirmed what residents had long suspected, that an invisible, powerful force had been controlling the flow of drugs and violence, orchestrating chaos with deliberate precision. These aren't the accidents of human error. They are deliberate moves, leaving behind trails that no mere oversight could produce. It's a cycle of destruction that demands accountability far beyond the reach of simple excuses or legal technicalities. The people know the truth now they've lived it. In other places, the shock is profound. Teachers, church leaders, office workers, people who once shook hands in trust now find themselves implicated, questioning just how deep the betrayal runs. For local governments, the fallout is immediate and far-reaching. Empty offices have disrupted court hearings, triggered emergency special elections, launched internal audits, and left agencies scrambling to rebuild public trust in real time. The ripple effect is undeniable. Entire communities are grappling with a shattered sense of security, wondering how so many could turn a blind eye to the corruption festering within their institutions. Federal officials, while acknowledging that the damage is neither random nor incidental but deeply structural, maintain a cautious tone. They measure each word carefully, fully aware that as investigations unfold, the full scope of systemic corruption continues to emerge, revealing a landscape far more tainted than anyone had dared to imagine. It begins where the law itself bends. In stories like these, it's easy to point to drugs, guns, cash, tangible evidence of crime. But this case reveals something far more dangerous: the quiet collapse of integrity. Because when the law becomes a gate, when a judge holds the door open, when a system built to shield the innocent turns into armor for the guilty, the harm spreads deeper than any shipment could. It's not just heroin hidden behind walls. It's trust shattered, packaged, and sold. And that's the true cost. Not measured in pounds or dollars, but in belief. The faith in the system once shattered cannot be easily restored. What was once a safeguard becomes a weapon, and the consequences echo long after the drugs and weapons are seized. The real damage isn't just what's lost, it's the erosion of the very foundation on which society stands. Communities rely on courts, officers, agencies, and institutions to stand as the line between order and chaos. When the gatekeepers turn, the damage doesn't merely stain records, it shapes the future. Addiction spreads violence, follows families, fracture neighborhoods, lose safety, and people begin to believe justice isn't real. That's the ripple effect. But this case also reveals something else. When systems break, there are still those ready to drag the truth into the light. Agents move before dawn, tirelessly following the trail. Analysts trace every dollar, every transaction. Communities refuse silence, refusing to accept that corruption is the new normal. Corruption thrives where the public looks away, but accountability grows when people choose to see, to demand change, to fight for justice, and to restore what has been stolen. The fight may be long, but it is the only path forward. The revelations from Operation Crosscut expose a profound crisis of trust in public institutions. When judges, officers, and officials enable drug cartels, the damage extends far beyond crime statistics. It erodes faith in justice itself. This isn't just corruption, it's a systemic betrayal that endangers communities, schools, and families. The fallout doesn't just affect those involved, it shakes the very foundation of society, leaving citizens questioning whether the systems meant to protect them have instead been corrupted. While the raids mark a victory for accountability, they also underscore urgent needs, stronger oversight, transparency, and ethical leadership. True recovery begins when citizens and leaders come together to rebuild integrity, ensuring that the law is not a tool of exploitation, but a shield that protects those it serves. From the Judge Marcus Hale scandal, the greatest lesson for us is this: drugs don't slip into communities on their own. They're invited through cracks carved by those in power. When 184 officials, from police officers to commissioners, accepted $8.3 million to open corridors for 1,809 tons of poison, faith in the justice system was pierced. The takeaway: don't just watch the streets, scrutinize the highest seats. Only when citizens stay vigilant, ask hard questions, and demand transparency can we stop the rot from within before it swallows the future. The real battle is not just in the alleys and neighborhoods, it's in the boardrooms, courthouses, and government halls where decisions are made that shape the very fabric of society. The fight for justice begins with the courage to confront the darkest corners of power and ensure that no one is above accountability. The truth is laid bare from Judge Marcus Hale to 184 officials. The system wasn't just infiltrated, it was sold out. 1,809 tons of drugs, $144 million in blood money and trust shattered. But this isn't the end. It's the beginning of accountability. Will you stay silent or speak up? Comment "I see" if you recognize that the rot starts at the very top. Comment "Justice" if you demand unyielding justice. Like, share, and subscribe to keep dragging the truth into the light, because silence today is complicity tomorrow. The time for complacency is over. The battle for integrity begins with all of us. Let's stand together and hold the powerful accountable.